Bismillah. Yesterday we had discussed some of the statements of Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu. A few more aspects that he has advised. On one occasion he gave what we can call for our purposes the definitions of various categories of people. So the first, or many out of the many things that he mentioned, one of the things he mentioned was, who is the person who is most tolerant? Ahlamun nas. The person who is most tolerant. Now tolerance is a very great virtue. Tolerance is something highly praised in the Quran Sharif. In the praising Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam and giving his qualities, Allah Ta'ala says, Inna Ibrahim la halimun awwahum munib. The highlight, Allah Ta'ala is obviously numerous qualities. Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam possess all these qualities to the peak. The Quran Sharif will describe the highlights. And out of the highlights is la halim, very tolerant. So now, Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu is also giving the definition that we may call of who is the most tolerant person, ahlamun nas. So this is not a minor thing, this is a very great thing. So the explanation he then gives is, man afa ba'd al-qudra. The person who has the power now to do what he needs to do, or what he wants to do rather, what he is now being provoked, and his anger is now taking him to take some action of some sort, and he has the ability to do it. One is a person is getting very upset, very angry, and he doesn't have that ability to vent that anger, because the person who is the source of that anger, for whatever the reason might be, is much stronger than him, or whatever the situation might be. That person is, for example, has some authority, so now he cannot vent his anger, so he keeps quiet. But the situation where he has that ability to vent that anger, but he remains tolerant, that is ahlamun nas. And that is the person who gains these very great virtues of tolerance, which have been mentioned in various ahadith. So that was the first aspect. The second aspect he mentioned, abkhalun nas. Who is the greatest miser? Abkhalun nas. Now the greatest miser, or minds, if somebody asks us this question, we might think of so many different things. But what he explained, who is the greatest miser? Yabkhalu bis salam. He even misers with making salam. Now what does he lose in making salam to somebody? But he will pass by anybody younger than him, anybody elder than him. He'll pass by his ustad sometime, but salam he won't make. Whereas to initiate salam, to be the first one to make the salam, that among the very great virtues that have been mentioned for it, one extremely great benefit of that is that this cleans pride. Initiating salam, it cleans pride, which has been an atom bomb in a person. It's a cancer. Now, such a simple prescription to clean that pride repeatedly. A person is all the time always taking the effort to initiate salam. He is the first one. Somebody elder than him, somebody younger than him, somebody who is he may regard as his equal, so to say, his classmate, whoever it might be, but he's all the time making the effort to make salam first. Now the person doesn't even make any salam. In the terminology of Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he is the greatest miser. And being miserly is a terrible thing. It's a very great fault in a person, that he is a miser. Now, he's a miser with other things, that makes him a miser. He's a miser with even salam, that makes him the most miserly person. And then the third aspect he mentions is a'jazun nas. Who is a person who is a'jaz, most helpless. Now you think about a most helpless person, somebody lying somewhere, doesn't have anybody to help him, he's in a terrible state, and maybe whatever, very sick, he can't even lift a hand to do anything for himself. So I think he is the most helpless person. As Umar says, that's not the most helpless person. The most helpless person could be perhaps also somebody who is up and about, very healthy, very strong, maybe very wealthy and whatever, but he could be the most helpless person. Why is he the most helpless person? He is the most helpless person is مَن يَعْجِزُ عَنْ دُعَاءِ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. the person who doesn't even ask Allah Ta'ala, he cannot get himself to start making dua to Allah Ta'ala. He can do a lot of other things, but he can't bring himself to ask Allah Ta'ala, who is the creator, the sustainer, the nourisher, the controller of everything. But he can't bring himself to raise his hands and ask Allah Ta'ala. How can there be anybody more helpless than him? That he can do other things, but he can't ask his creator. He can do other things, but he can't turn to Allah Ta'ala. What can be a greater disaster than that? There isn't anybody more helpless than him. He needs the greatest help to bring him back to Allah Ta'ala. So these are three aspects among many others that he mentioned, but each one is food for thought. Very, very great food for thought. That we want to be the most tolerant. This is the message. Man afa ba'd al-qudra. And then nobody wants to be a miser. Forget being a miser, being the most miserly person. Now this is something to self-check. That am I in any way close to this category or halfway there, or I'm far away from it? How much salam do I make? To all, it might be somebody who's half my age, it might be whoever it might be. But how much salam do I make? How many times I'm passing people throughout the day in the madrasa? One is a person is on the street, he doesn't know who's who. He is in the madrasa, he has everybody around him who are all his fellow Muslims. Now how many times we make salam? We enter the room, we enter the classroom, we enter some place where somebody is there, we come out, we pass somebody while walking. How many times do we make salam? Now, this is something to reflect upon. We don't want to be misers. Umar says the greatest miser. And then the person who is most helpless, person who can't even bring himself to make dua, we have to start pushing ourselves to make dua. Together with everything else, dedicate some time in the day. Few minutes, 2-3 minutes at least for a start, to dedicate some time to earnestly make dua to Allah Ta'ala. Allah Ta'ala give us.
अल्लाह अल्लाह कैसा प्यारा नाम है, आशिकों का मीना और जाम है।